Hey, I'm Tim Jackson. I'm your Oregon and Washington real estate agent. We're going to go over the steps to buying your dream home in today's class.
Renee Candler, our community's bilingual mortgage advisor, and what a treat to be able to bring how to create that dream into realization. Let's do it.
Yeah. I'm going to go grab one of my home buying books real quick. Here.
While Tim Jackson does that, I'm just going to go ahead and talk a little bit about me. Those of you that know me know me. Those of you that don't know, I'm an educator at heart. And so I am a public school of 18 years. I was a school principal for 10 of those 18 years. My role in this home buying world is to teach you how the system works. Let's leverage the bank's money so that you can buy your home. And then I have this beautiful family that I feel truly blessed that God has favored me with. And so in this picture, you'll see I have Malia, Logan, our twins, and Maya, our oldest. And they're holding on to these mangoes that my dad gave us from Puerto Rico, sent over from Puerto Rico. And that story is one of my favorites because of the imagery that I have when I would go to Puerto Rico to grab mangoes. So this is one of my favorite photos. Latino, born in Puerto Rico, raised in the city of Chicago. This bicultural world that I have lived in, navigated in my entire life, is now coming out in your favor to support you in that home buying process. It would be a pleasure to be able to do so.
Oh man, it's not a mouthful of donut, but let's go.
Tim Jackson, ladies and gentlemen. Mind the way.
A little bit about me. I moved from London, England when I was 6 years old. Joined the military when I was 18 out of high school. So I've been in Clackamas area for going on 25 years. Joined the military, served 13 years in the Oregon National Guard. Met my beautiful wife, Michaela, soon after joining the military. Got 5 beautiful kids. And I've been licensed as a real estate agent for these last 5 years, helping people navigate the crazy ups and downs of this real estate roller coaster that we have seen in these last few markets. So just going over the home buying process, one important thing to note is that this is just a class giving you a brief overview of the initial things to think about when you're starting to say, okay, I might be ready to buy a home in the next 6 months or 12 months or
tomorrow.
Or tomorrow. But if you're ready to buy a home tomorrow, then that's when we sit down and actually have a one-on-one conversation and we go over everything that this book presents. Now, this book is just a visual aid, but I'm going to go over your expectations and needs as we discuss everything that this book has to offer. We're going to break some of what this book, we're going to break down some of what's in this book today to give you a basic framework for starting to think about that next home or the costs needed. So what is the home buying process? We're going to go over the costs, the monthly payment, what's the right strategy to win the day in today's market.
Okay, so one of the things that you'll do in this process is sit with a mortgage advisor. That's me. Hello, Renee Candler, here to serve. And the reason why is because you want to know what the financial situation looks like. And the system is, in my opinion, really well set up. And so just simply think about it in this way. The system wants to know the relationship between your debt and your income. How much money do I bring in? How much money goes out? Once we understand that, we know how much you can qualify for. An important piece to that, and this is more so for the cost of it, is your credit score. That number determines risk in the eyes of the bank. And that's where the costs come from. And of course, we talk about money because we have to know how much money you have for that down payment and potentially for the closing costs in the process of buying the home.
Renee, when we talk about, just really quickly, when we talk about income, we're talking about gross income, correct?
It's so nasty. Yeah, gross income, which is the pre-tax number, definitely. And so we do have that conversation so that we understand what the DTI really means.
That's what you mean from what's coming in. And when you talk about what's going out, the debts, what you're talking student loans.
Oh, that's a good
car
question.
loans.
Yeah. So that information comes from your credit report. So when you apply for a home loan, you authorize me to run your credit, and that's important. I give you the report. In fact, we review it. That's one of the first things we do. We look to see what credit is on that report, what debts are on there. Those are the numbers that are used in this calculation for debt to income. Like Tim mentioned some already, student debt as in student loans, your home loan if you already own a home, your car loans if you have car loans, personal loans from the banks, credit cards. That's the information that we'll find in that credit report.
It's a good reminder that sometimes cars being an appreciating asset and counting against your debt to income, I've always been one to go to the car dealer and not get a loan because it counts against you on that home purchase. So just something to think about if you're looking at buying a car. Know that it will affect your overall picture when it comes to buying a home as well.
For sure, and that's the beauty of what we're doing right now. It's if you're thinking about buying within the next 12 months, 2 years, whatever it may be, that's what we do. Mm-hmm. We help prepare that road for you. Very simply, what you'll see is the process includes the following: an application. Hey, Renee, I'm interested. Do me the favor, send me the application. The application is a link that is done electronically. It opens up the Root Mortgage platform. The first thing you see is the application. You complete the application, and a list of documents that are needed will pop up, and it says, we need a photo of your ID. We need the last 30 days of pay stubs. We need the last 2 years W-2s. And we need the last month's bank statement so that we can see where the money's coming from for the transaction. So once that's done, the application's completed, the documents are sent, that's when my work begins. I review everything, I call you, I invite you over to the office, we could do a Zoom meeting, and then we go through your credit report, the options, and of course, the strategy in today's market.
So part of finding the right home, we're gonna get into a little bit more detail later on in this presentation, but after you have this original consultation where we go over, the whole process, we're gonna start looking for that, the right property. In this market, sometimes the right home is the stepping stone home or the home that fits within your budget. So when you think about your needs, your wants, your dreams, and your the stuff that you exclude from your home, some of that's gonna get limited just naturally by how much are you wanting to pay monthly. So if you're looking for an acre, 3,000 square feet, brand new with a swimming pool and immaculate 10 out of 10 finishes, and your budget's $450,000, we're gonna have to have a conversation about what do you actually need within your constraints, right?
And that's why our conversation is going to be critical. That is your conversation with the mortgage advisor, because that's when you'll see the number. It's been many times where I've had clients that could buy an $800,000 home, and they're like, I don't want to go that high, because they see what that means as a monthly figure.
Right.
That's the conversation we have. Once we have that, then you go to Tim. All right, Tim, we'd like to find homes at these price points.
We're gonna get into that list, but yeah, I mean, once you're finding and you're touring homes, we'll get into narrowing down that specific home in the way that Mikhaila and I did it when we purchased our second home. But after you find that home, you're gonna select the home, make an offer, you're gonna negotiate terms such as closing costs, you're gonna negotiate the price up front. Inspections are a whole nother ballpark that come after the contract's accepted. So when people say, well, I see there might be a big issue with this, there's some stuff that you negotiate up front on price from what you see, but the stuff that you don't see, the stuff that the home inspector finds out, those are items that you're gonna be saving to negotiate later. Now, I will say up front that generally speaking, if you walk in and you see that the floors are completely ripped up, torn up by a dog, that would be something you negotiate for up front. You would say, hey, I would like a $10,000 credit as an example to deal with getting these floors corrected. And that would just be one thing that you could do to negotiate. But you wouldn't then go into inspections and say, hey, we just noticed the floors are messed up. It's like, did you see the home? But let's just say you find that the sewer line is completely messed up after you scope it and it needs a $12,000 repair. We're gonna go to the seller and say, hey, this repair is gonna be done, or we're walking.
What you're hearing right now is the ethical part of Tim, and that's exactly why you want to work with someone like Tim. There is strategy in getting into contract. Tim is the guy to help with that. And then, of course, there's strategy once you are under contract during the inspection period to do what's next.
Yeah. So I'm just going to break this list down really quickly because Mikhail and I sat down with a notebook, and before we even stepped foot in the home, we wrote down everything that we needed, everything that we wanted, and then we put our dreams, like the things that if we could have everything in a bag of chips, these are the ones that would really make the home special. And then we put our do nots, like living on a main road, or is a very common one, and that was for us. We didn't want property taxes over a certain amount. We didn't want to be too far away from more than 20 minutes from our church, or more than 20 minutes from the kids' school. Things like that are things that will really help start shaping your boundaries. You can easily also get a map out and say, hey, start circling areas and even rank them. And say number 1, we would want to be in this bubble, but then you expand it and go from there. I will say that your needs, your wants, and your dreams are probably going to shift a little bit with your budget. I think that's just always a natural thing, and as you look at homes, you really start thinking about what's important. Like if you have on your needs that I need a big yard and a big house and everything squared away, and it needs to be in one of the best areas of Portland, you're slowly going to realize what the trade-off is for all of those as you start viewing homes. And then maybe you'll unlock a suburb that you didn't really think about, but you're like, actually, we really like the suburb, and it has everything else that we want for the right price. You know what? I'm actually going to go back and relook at my needs list and make an exception because this home is actually what I was looking for.
When it comes down to it, what matters is the home. Here's what I mean, and of course I'm going to say this. Don't misunderstand me. Nikki and our first home, was on a major street in the city of Chicago, not even a half a block away from a 6-corner intersection. Let me explain how busy this home was, the area that this home was in. In front of us, about 3 houses down to our left, was a garage, a mechanic garage. Next to that was a gas station. On the other corner was a 24-hour Golden Nugget. If you know, you know. Then there was another diner. Love that diner. Then on the other side, there was a Euro place. Really good Euros. On the other intersection, there was currency exchange. If you're from Chicago, you see those everywhere. There was another restaurant. It was all right, but it was busy all the time. The rats were incredibly healthy, which is what led us to move about 4 years after we lived there. Why am I bringing this up? We sold that place for $100,000 more than we bought it for about 10 years after that. And it was a duplex. So for 6 years that we had it after we lived there, other people were paying our mortgage. Sometimes that dream home is the home right now. And that home right now will get you into the dream home. That's my personal story. I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've been in, but don't let what you can't get now stop you from getting it in the future.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, here's 2 examples. I'm going to show you an example of a conventional loan. I'll show you an example of an FHA loan. This is far away. I'm guessing you can't see it very well. Don't worry. You say, hey, Renee, can you send me the presentation? I will send you the presentation. I will have a sit down with you. The reason why I'm showing this is because these are the 2 most used loan programs in the country. There are pros and cons. But let's just look at the numbers real quick. Looking at today's pricing, if I were to purchase a $495,000 home, let's say on an FHA loan with 5% down, my monthly payment is about $3,400 a month. Almost a $500,000 home. 5% down is almost $25,000 for the down payment. We're considering homeowners insurance, property taxes, mortgage insurance, because we're putting less than 20% down. Estimated monthly payment for this particular home is about $3,400 a month, $3,400. I'm just letting that sink in. If you go to a conventional loan, you'll see that the benefit of the FHA loan is that you'll be saving $180 a month. For the conventional loan, the rate's going to be a little bit higher, depending on your credit score. the mortgage insurance is going to be a little bit lower. And even with that, you're going to have a higher monthly output. Again, the monthly payment for the same home, 5% down, with the conventional loan is about $180 more a month. Why wouldn't you go FHA? Well, one of the downsides with FHA is you pay a funding fee. A funding fee is a percentage of the amount that you're borrowing. We talk about that. That fee is not paid when you purchase the house. The fee is paid when you sell the house or when you refinance.
Yep. And for those of you that are watching that might be already into a home with that equity that Renee talked about, you got into your stepping stone home, and now you've built up a decent chunk of equity. That payment obviously adjusts the more you put down. So if you were to put a decent chunk of the equity you built up in your first home, your monthly payment is obviously going to vary depending on, a higher down payment.
And the crazy thing is, I'll show you, because when you look at the numbers right now in today's market, plus or minus $10,000 of the amount that you borrow, so plus or minus $10,000 of the amount that you put down, is going to yield about a $60 difference per month. And when people see that, they're like, that's not that much. But the beauty is there is an amazing way of using this system to leverage the asset. And that's part of our one-on-one consultation. This slide just shows the comparison between a conventional and an FHA loan. Minimum down for a conventional loan is 3% for the first-time home buyer. For FHA loan, minimum is 3.5% down. Interest rate's going to be a little bit higher for the conventional loan, a little bit lower for the FHA loan. If we're looking at today's market, it's about 3/4 lower if you were to go FHA. There's no funding fee on the conventional loan. Yes, you will pay a funding fee on the FHA loan when you sell or when you refi. The mortgage insurance on either one of those two will be there if you put 20%, if you put less than 20% down. FHA mortgage insurance is permanent. FHA allows you to borrow a little bit more. You can go up to 55% on your DTI. With conventional, you have to be under 50%.
So we're going to break down the costs of what it takes to purchase a home. We'll go over the down payment first. And we've already kind of talked about the down payment, the minimum. The 2 times I bought a home, I put 0% down on my first VA home and 5% down on the second. But let's just say that we're using $500,000 as a nice round number. Then 5% would be $25,000.
And that was strategic. So when Tim and Michaela bought their second home with the VA loan, the reason why we put the 5% down was because it lowered the funding fee drastically.
Yeah, we essentially saved like tons of money over the course of time.
It was almost the 5% that you put down.
Yeah, exactly. We were paying ourselves back. So the closing costs typically range. I typically see a number between $6,000 to $10,000 depending on the price of the home. The closing costs are going to be fees associated with the loan, with the escrow. But a lot of the times in this market, especially if you're the only offer on a home for sale, you're going to get those closing costs paid for. Quite often, more often than not, when you work with Renee and I, you're getting those closing costs 100% paid for because we're negotiating hard for you.
And you'll know what that money will do for you because that's a part of what we do in our consultation. With the closing costs, very simply stated, and this is very simply, just think 2%. So if my house is going to cost $500,000, 2% is $10,000. Those $10,000 represent the closing costs. If I have $10,000 in closing costs and I'm choosing to put 5% down for that $500,000 home, that's $25,000 in down payment, that's $10,000 in closing costs. In total, approximately $35,000 that you'll need. Let me break down the closing costs. The closing costs are essentially 2 buckets of money. One bucket is the fees. How much is going to cost you to buy the home? The bank will charge a fee. That's what's called an underwriting fee. The title company, which you must use in Oregon and Washington, will charge you a fee, probably around $2,500. They insure the title of the home. The appraisal, which is a document that the bank wants to see to ensure that the home is worth the $500,000 that you pledged to purchase. That's about $1,000. Fees itself within that $10,000 closing cost figure is about $4,000, let's say $4,500 to just estimate on the high side. The other amount The approximate $5,500 is what's called an escrow. That's the money to pay the property taxes that are due now and to establish an account for the future. Same with the homeowner's insurance. You pay for it at closing and you put an additional amount into an account to pay for in the future. In this market, we can get the sellers to pay your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance because it's more than 80% of my buyers. They've gotten their closing costs covered completely.
Yep. And there have been cases where we had people that were very diligent about saving. They came in with 20% down. They were able to skip the escrow fees because they could opt to pay the property taxes on an annual basis. So there's definitely different ways to go out doing this. There's just two other costs that I want to mention really quickly, and they're commonly asked about. One is your earnest money, which is part of that down payment. So let's just say that you're putting 5% down on that $500,000 as an example again. That's $25,000. Within the first 3 days of going under contract, you're going to be depositing that earnest money with the title company. And what that earnest money does is basically say that you have skin in the game. But the most common question I have when people are dropping off that earnest money is, what happens if we back out in inspections, or what happens if something goes wrong? The buyer in a real estate contract is heavily protected, and you have an inspection period. You have a financing contingency. There are a lot of contingencies that ensure that the buyer is protected from that skin in the game money eventually being applied to the down payment. I've never had a scenario where a buyer lost that earnest money. The only time that would ever happen would be if you were the day before closing. It'd be like if you were to set up a wedding and pay for the venue, and the bride is literally walking down the aisle, and the groom just says, runs off. Like, somebody's got to pay.
Why has it got to be the groom? Why is it always got to be the groom?
I don't know.
I'm just messing with you.
You know what I mean. If one of them runs off, the cost is going to have to be held by somebody. And that's really what the earnest money is to prevent people that are probably, in my opinion, they've probably been pressured into this, or they're just not making great decisions. But again, this is why we sit down and have that one-on-one consultation and go over in depth, so that way you feel informed and educated, and you feel like you're making the right decision when it comes time.
Just to kind of repeat this a little bit more, that earnest deposit is a part of your down payment. Typically, what we see is 1% of the purchase price is the earnest deposit. I'm just saying typically, sometimes it's different. So if I'm buying a $500,000 home and I'm putting 5% down, I'm putting $25,000 down. 1% of that $500,000 is $5,000. So what Tim is saying,
right.
I'll take $5,000 of my $25,000 down payment. I'm gonna put it down to show of faith that I want to move forward and purchase this home. You can get that $5,000 back if you see something you don't like in your inspection period. If something happens, you lose your job, or something unfortunate happens, you can get that money back.
Yep.
If you like the home, everything looks good, and you're moving forward, remember your down payment was $25,000. You've already put $5,000. You're coming to the table with the other $20,000, and that's when you buy the home. When you bring that additional amount, when you're there to sign the papers to get the keys.
Correct. And then the only other cost would be home inspections. Home inspections generally go from about $500 to $1,000. It just depends on the size of the home and what you're going for. I would typically bare minimum recommend a general home inspection and a sewer scope, but then you can tack on things like radon, or if you're buying a larger property, things like a tank scan, a septic tank, a well inspection, if you're buying a home on land. So all in all, I would say bare minimum, and this is just a generalization, but a safe amount to have in your bank account when it comes time to making a home purchase, I would say is around minimum $25,000 to $30,000. But again, that's a generalization. I've seen people get in with less, VA loan, 0% down, kind of veterans. We like to fly in by the skin of our teeth.
Well, we had a client that bought in April, VA, veteran client, 0% down. They had their closing costs covered.
Yep.
Now, with the appraisal, that is sometimes paid ahead of time. But that's it. That's the only amount that's paid ahead of time. And that money was then reimbursed because we had the concessions from the seller. So as a VA, as a vet, which I think is the best loan program that exists in this country,
I'd agree.
You have an opportunity to come into the purchase of a home with 0 down.
Yeah. I like Dave Ramsey a lot, but I disagree with him on some key points, and the VA loan is definitely one of them. But that's not to say I've seen people obviously get them with more 25, 30. It depends on your how much risk or how risk averse you are would be how much you have saved. I would say if you're really, really playing it safe and you're getting into a $500,000 home with 5% down, you've got your $30,000 set aside for the purchase, and then you've got another $20,000 or $25,000 tucked away. So it's like $55,000 saved away for the whole occasion. You know, you move in a couple months later. Let's just say the furnace goes bad. You want a little bit in reserves. Don't blow the entire budget and be like, we're going to use everything in the checking and the savings to make this happen. If you're somebody like me who likes to have those, that extra little reserve in case something goes wrong. So that's just, that's getting into a little bit more of the weeds there, but it's how I would go about it, and typically how I advise a client when they ask me. So we kind of already gone over the deposit of the earnest money. This is getting more into the kind of the nitty gritty of the process, I would say. But there are things in here like arranging for homeowners insurance, doing a walkthrough after repairs are done. These are things that we're going to walk through. Very specific items that when you're getting ready to make a purchase and you're looking into the home buying process, we're going to go over all of these steps step by step and guide you through this is what each step means and what it does. We're not going to get into each point right now, simply because this is pretty far into the game, I would say.
It's pretty individualized too, but you'll see, because we'll be talking a lot throughout the process. It will feel like a roller coaster where at times you will be going fast to then wait. But the beautiful thing is we're always available. Call, text, email. Hey, what do I do now? What are we waiting for? And you'll see that slowly, and that slowly is within 30 days. I like this home. I'm going to put an offer on it. It gets accepted. I'm in contract. In about 30 days, you'll have the keys.
Yep.
That's how quick it goes.
Yeah. And today's market has obviously shifted from even, especially 3 or 4 years ago, but even from a year or two ago, we've seen interest rates kind of peak at a 7.5%. I mean, I can let you talk about interest rates a little bit more, but I see it as a real estate agent affecting the ebb and flow of the market. And every time rates drop, inevitably some buyers come out of the woodwork, and it creates some extra competition. But there's also the fact that interest rates having gone up from recent lows of 3 or 4%, it has stifled some of the competition. You're able to get a little bit more with things like insurance premiums going up in the last few years. Buyers are aware of the costs in this market. I mean, the fact of the matter is you're probably already aware, you don't need us to tell you, that things have gotten a little bit more expensive in this market, but with that has come the ability to negotiate that against the seller. The seller also realizes that they're working. If the seller is informed and the seller is motivated, they're going to be making this conscious decision when they are negotiating with a buyer to realize this buyer has got some pain points, and if we're going to close on this deal, we've got to appease some of these pain points.
Well, you know what? Let's just go to the reason why I'm bringing this up. The reason why Tim and I are bringing this up is because there's a strategy in every market. So what's the strategy in today's market? Same home, $495,000. I like it. I'm going to offer $495,000. Sometimes that house is on the market for over a month. And if that house is on the market for over a month, I could negotiate. I could ask to lower that price. I don't want to buy for $495,000. This is the important conversation. We've reviewed your file. We know how much money you want to put down. We have found the comfortable price range so you are comfortable with that monthly payment.
Right.
We're looking for homes. What's the strategy? This is my opinion. If we find a house that's been on the market for 30 days or more, you're working with Tim, and Tim says, yeah, I think we can ask for it. Let's ask for what's called concessions. Concessions work like credit. So let's just look at the difference. That $495,000 home with 5% down is about $3,600 a month. If I say, you know what, your house has been on the market for a month, I want to lower it $25,000. I want to buy it at $470,000. Still put the 5% down. My monthly payment will go down, about $150 a month. So now I'm about $3,430. $150 a month isn't bad. That's the difference of $25,000 in this market. Here's what I'm suggesting. Ask for concessions. Instead of lowering $25,000, say, you know what, seller, I want you to give me $25,000 in concessions. If $10,000 are closing costs, you take the $10,000 from those $25K. Yes, you're taking the seller's money and you're paying the closing costs. So now you have $15,000 left. What can you do with that money? I recommend a buy down. There's two types, a permanent buy down, a temporary buy down. Temporary buy down has the biggest bang for your buck. It's a 2-year program, so think about it this way. It's a subsidy. I'm gonna take the approximate $15,000, I guess I'm not, the bank is, gonna put it into an account, and every month, like a subsidy, a portion will come out. With this particular home, with this particular 2-year temporary buy down, that first year, the monthly payment goes down almost $600 a month. So you're getting an approximate $600 subsidy every month for the first 12 months. In the second year, that subsidy goes to about $300. And you're saving $300 a month for those next 12 months. Knowing the market that we're in, if you're still in this loan program, essentially, if you have not refinanced, then you pay that original $3,600 amount on that third year or that 25th payment. It's a brilliant way to give yourself a runway to save money by using someone else's money to subsidize your monthly payment.
Yeah. And like we said, the next step is really going to be a free consultation. You'll want to get a bunch of different paperwork into Renee, and sometimes I have people complain that like, oh, it's so much paperwork. But trust me, once the process is started, you have all the paperwork and the forms into Renee. He's able to get you that pre-approval, and we're able to go over the consultation and start talking about really the sexy part, which is looking at homes. And
he does have the fun part.
Yeah.
And sometimes we've done it together where obviously I need the application first and the documents to come in. I review everything and then I invite you to the office or a Zoom meeting. And there's been times where Tim and I have been with you during that process, because then we talk full scale. Okay, we're comfortable at this purchase price. Tim, what do you think we can do? And then he goes over all of that information. And then soon thereafter, you're in the process of purchasing your home.
Yeah. So yeah, feel free to apply right here with Renee. Submit all those documents and meet with Renee. And thanks for watching the video. We're both here to have the conversation with you about what it's gonna take in this market to purchase a home. And again, if you're one day out, then definitely reach out right now. I mean, now is the time to seize the market in the seasonal adjusted winter month. But if you're 3 months, 6 months, you've been thinking about buying a home, or 2026 is your year, and maybe you've got to file your taxes first. You had somebody say, hey, make sure you're filing your taxes first before you're making the home purchase. That's totally fine. We're here to start the conversation now, though, because even when you're getting ready to file your taxes in the next month or two, that's a huge part of...
That's part of the review. So that's especially for 1099 or self-employed buyers. That's a very unique not unique. It's a very distinct conversation because of your finances, your business. I appreciate having those conversations, and it's a joy to be able to prepare you for that.
Yeah.
But even that being said, I've had clients that have met with me, and 2 years later they're buying. So don't worry about the time frame. Let's understand the options first. Once we understand the options, then the time frame becomes realistic, and then we can plan and set forward to finally buy that house.
Cool. Yeah, well, just reach down and we would love to have that conversation. Send us a DM or give us a phone call.